Joining me now, Democratic strategist and former advisor to Kamala Harris, Mike Nellis. Also here, the host of the Ben Ferguson Show, Ben Ferguson. Welcome to you both. Mike, let me begin with you here, because Jeffries is saying that he has not met with Johnson because Trump, you heard it, has not given the Republicans permission. I mean, the phone does work two ways, right?
Well, how could how could Hakeem Jeffries meet with Speaker Johnson when they're not even at work right now? Like, Republicans are not in session. They've barely worked more than 12 days since the middle of the summer. If you or I didn't show up to work like that, we'd get fired. Let's be clear about this for a second, because Donald Trump and Mike Johnson can end this shutdown anytime that they want to. But they actually want this shutdown. They want this shutdown because they don't want to move forward with the Epstein discharge petition now that Democrats have the votes. They'll be able to release the Epstein files with those votes, but they're delaying installing it. So they would rather cover up for predators than stop your health insurance premiums from doubling or tripling or reopening the government, and that isn't right.
Ben, do you agree? I'm assuming no.
I do not. I go back to reality. You can try to score political points here, and the American people are not talking about Epstein right now. They're not focused on that. If you're in our government and you're not getting paid, what you just heard there would just irritate you. If you're in Iraq right now, for example, as one of my friends who's not going to get a paycheck while he's away from his family, you're not worried about the politics that were just said there. And I think the reality is this: Republicans more than a dozen times said we are going to have a CR. We're going to continue to operate like adults when Biden was in office to keep the government open and not hold people hostage. And what we're witnessing right now is Democrats who've made it very clear that a budget that they were totally fine with when Joe Biden was president somehow is not acceptable now for political reasons. And you have a Schumer shutdown because you have, unfortunately, they can't even find 6 grown men or women who realize that their job is to get to 60 votes in the Senate. And so this is going to continue on. I think it's going to continue on probably until you have a rally on Capitol Hill that Democrats are being held hostage by. And until that date gets here, you will see no movement on Capitol Hill because they got to have a rally. Democrats have to be angry. You got to have Schumer out there yelling and every other Democrat, and then they'll get a deal done. I think you'll probably get a deal done in days after that.
Well, Mike, what do you say to the idea that the no King's Rally, I'm assuming that Ben is referencing here, is somehow the only mechanism or vehicle by which to get things done, or the way the dam will break? What's your response?
Well, the No Kings Rally really has nothing to do with the shutdown other than people are pretty unhappy with Donald Trump's leadership. I want to cycle back to something that you just said, though, which is that this is the Joe Biden budget. This is not the Joe Biden budget. This is the Republican budget. They passed it in much fanfare.
CR was for a Joe Biden measure budget. That's a fact.
So, no, but this is the Republican budget. And let's keep in mind, how many times have Republicans just like you been on CNN and remind people that Donald Trump won in this? Hold on, I didn't interrupt you. I'd ask that you didn't interrupt me, please.
No, but I want to be clear. The CR was.
Well, hold on, Ben. I do want. Excuse me. I want to hear you. I'll hear from Mike. I'll come right back to you. Mike, finish your point. We'll hear from Ben next.
Yeah, the point that I want to make is that Republicans like Ben love to come on CNN and remind people that Donald Trump won in this giant landslide, that they control the White House, they control the Senate, they control the House. But the minute they can't keep the government open, it's somebody else's fault. The buck stops with Donald Trump. If they want to end this shutdown, they could right now. All they have to do is extend these healthcare subsidies that are going to prevent your healthcare premiums from doubling or tripling. That's the bottom line. Do that, and the government reopens.
Yeah. Look, you still have to get to 60 votes, and you can count to 60. There's no way to count to 60 without Democrats being involved. I go back to the CR. It's a clean CR. The CR was to keep the government open at the level of funding under Joe Biden while they're negotiating the future budget. You understand that. Republicans understood it more than a dozen times when Joe Biden was president, that you don't hold people hostage who are working in our government and or in our military. And I go back to the simple issue here. This day on Capitol Hill is going to be the day where finally Democrats can then come to the table and act like adults. They're being held hostage by the radical left in their party. And I mark my word, in the days after this anti-Trump rally in Washington, D.C., you'll start to see movement. They will not meet. They will not work on any of this. They will hold the government hostage and shut down until after this rally, because this is what this has all been about since day one.
Mike, both of you, I've been a federal employee during a shutdown. And I got to tell you, when I wasn't getting paid and told to work anyway, I wasn't thinking about the politics. I was thinking about how I was going to provide for my family. And that's not a cheer to either side. It's a recognition that people who are federal workers want to have the government open, but they don't necessarily, Mike, want it at every single cost. Military families have been expressing a ton of anxiety over missing payments. Trump accused Democrats of holding the military hostage, a word that Ben has been using. How does this look for Democrats when he takes credit for being the reason the troops get paid if he goes through with this process that Hegseth might release some of these unobligated research funds in order to pay?
Yeah, well, look, my father was a 34-year veteran of the FBI. I had to deal with him not getting his paycheck during two shutdowns, both by the Republicans. So this is something that happens. Nobody looks good when the government shut down, not Democrat or Republicans. But at the end of the day, and I'll make this point until the cows come home, Donald Trump is president of the United States. The Republicans control the House and the Senate. Republicans in the House haven't even shown up to work in weeks. So if they want to make a deal with the Democrats, they have to show up to work. They have to be willing to negotiate. All the Democrats are asking for here is to make sure that tens of millions of Americans don't have their health insurance premiums doubled or tripled. That is unbelievably popular. Frankly, I think Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, if they can get them to do this on a deal, will be doing Donald Trump and the Republicans a favor in the midterms.
We'll see if any of the members of Congress think that you both are right. Mike Nellis, Ben Ferguson, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much. A quick